Hi there, welcome to my workshop and my O-gauge layout, Newton Grove. Now in this little update I thought I would just take you through what I've done with my layout since setting it up and bringing it over here to the UK. Now you may have remembered Newton Grove from HM201 back in 2021, but a lot has changed since then. And of course, if you are a subscriber, you will have seen in the staff project section that I have actually been doing a lot of updates of my layout. The reason for this is it is about to attend its very first exhibition, not just here in the UK, but anywhere in a few weeks' time, and that is at the Keighley MRC Club's exhibition on the first weekend of March. And I'll give you more details about that later on in the video. But first of all, let's just talk about what has changed, what I've been going through, and what I still have to do to update the layout. The first and biggest thing, which you can see behind me, is the engine shed. That has changed completely. In fact, this structure behind me is a brand new shed. There's a few reasons for this. The very first one that I built was one of my very first scratch built attempts. It was made from 3mm plywood with a very thick 6mm mirror to the side. And as much as it looked okay in the photographs, it wasn't practical. It was falling apart. It was, as I said, my very first attempt at scratch building. And if you didn't move the layout at all, it was fine. But when you transport the layout, when you put it on a ship and send it across the other side of the world, it really didn't last the test of time as such. So that had to change. So this shed here now behind me is about 70% complete. Now the biggest difference with this new shed is I have built the entire structure out of Foamex. Now Foamex is an incredible product to use. There's a few Facebook forums out there about Foamex. You can buy it in certain model shops. I think Model 4D sell it. You can buy it all on the internet. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. So the shed itself, the outer layer is 3mm Foamex, which has been laser scribed, or laser engraved I should say, by a friend of mine. Beware though about laser engraving Foamex, because if you don't do it properly, it does release a lot of toxins. But all the brickwork has been done through that laser engraving, and behind that 3mm shell is 5mm Foamex, so the structure is very light but very, very rigid. Inside the shed I have put a mirror onto the right hand side, but this time it is a sticky mirror instead. And I've done this because it just gives the impression of having a 6-road shed rather than a 3-road shed. The other thing I've done for the very first time is at the very back wall, I've actually stuck a photograph of the inside of Rosegrove MPD, so that if and when, and that's if ever if, you'll be able to see inside to the back. You haven't just got a blank white wall or a back wall with a little bit of light in there. Once I do get around to adding interior lighting, you'll be able to see at least the interior of a shed. The top of the roofs here, the vents have been also made from Foamex. This is 1mm Foamex, which I have just cut and stuck together just with super glue. It cuts very easily. It super glues within seconds almost, and then that has been sprayed with a base coat of Rail Match weathered black, which I think is fantastic because it's not grey, it's not dark black, it's this mucky weathered black, and it's wonderful. I've actually used it for a lot of things on my locomotives, my rolling stock, and of course the structures as well. Now the part of the shed that I'm happy with the most is the concrete. So you can see down over here, what I've actually done is I've scribed the bricks where it transitions to the concrete rendering, which I quite love. And this concrete texture was actually produced by using a product from AK Wargame Terrain, which they call concrete. I basically just put the whole thing on, spread it with a slightly damp brush, and when it was dry, I gave it a light sanding over with very light sandpaper, weathered it down, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy with it. Now on close inspection there are a few sort of large bumps and so forth, but from regular viewing distance such as here, it looks really good, the texture's all there, and once it's been weathered down, as you can see I've started there, I think it's really looking the part. I wish I'd known about the AK Wargame Terrain products a long time ago, but now that I do, I'll be using them quite often. So the other small things that need to happen, which may not happen in time for the exhibition, is of course I do need to fit the interior stanchions over there, which I've already sprayed up. I just need to cut them to size, and last of all I need to fit the lighting. Now the lighting may or may not be ready in a few weeks time. If not, it'll be a project that will just happen eventually. And then lastly, to finish the entire shed off, which will be done for the exhibition, is I'll just tone a few things down with an airbrush, spray it up the top over here where the smoke would have just naturally weathered the brickwork and the concrete, and then that's basically it for the shed. Moving down to the other end of the layout, then the other major structure that I had, which has changed once again completely, is the road bridge. Now the road bridge of Newton Grove originally was the very first structure I had ever scratch built for the layout, And it wasn't bad, it did last the test of time, but I thought to myself, it's a little bit high and a fraction narrow. So I thought to myself, while I'm going to upgrade the entire layout, I will go in there and build a completely new bridge. And I'm really glad that I did, because with this one I've made it a little bit wider to accommodate a footpath either side, and I've also put the bridge on a slight angle. For those of you who know about my layout Newton Grove and who have read the staff project article or the original article in HM166, you will know that this layout is heavily based on Rosegrove over in Burnley, or what was Rosegrove, and the bridge that spanned Rosegrove Yard actually had an incline to it. Now on mine I've reversed it, the incline goes the other way, but I've still taken inspiration from Rosegrove. And let's face it, I'm not modelling Rosegrove, this is just my take on the location, I'm changing it, hence the name Newton Grove. I'm really happy with the row bridge. It's a 3mm base of Fomex, and on top of that I have put a very thin coat of the concrete texture from AK Wargame Terrain again. This time I've sanded it right back to make it nice and fine, but to still get that texture in it, sprayed the entire thing with weathered black, and then I've gone in there and weathered it using some of the life color range, which of course is available from the Key Model World shop. As far as the brickwork is concerned, that is just your regular Slater's red brick, the 7mm red brick, which I have obviously cut to shape and assembled, and I have put some different colour bricks in there, weathered the thing down, put some mortar marks in there, a few sort of mossy streaks and so forth. There's still some work to do, but the brickwork is now looking the way I want it to. But what I am most happy about with this bridge is the stone coping either side of the walls. These have also been made from Fomex, and what I have done is I have basically just scribed the Fomex just with some scribing tools. And then to get that sort of rough stone look, I've literally just gone in there and just jabbed it and just randomized everything so that when you look at it, they look like individual rough Yorkshire stones. That's been painted with some base colours, weathered with the life colour range again, and I think it looks absolutely brilliant, and it contrasts really well against that red brick, which of course is so common in Lancashire. Last but not least, on the row bridge I have used the wonderful scale model scenery pavements, which I have just cut to shape and weathered once again with a base covering and then weathering down with the life colour range, and I'm very happy with how the whole thing looks. And when you put the whole thing together, put a few vehicles on there, it really does look the part. I'm also putting some lighting on this. I just need to make sure I can get that finished and get them lit before the exhibition. So if I can't get the lighting finished, the lampposts will be there, they just won't be illuminated. Moving past the row bridge, I have got a brand new retaining wall. Now this was actually my very first work on Fomex ever. So what I've done there is I've got two 3mm Fomex sheets which I have stuck together, and what I did is I individually scribed all the bricks, which is fantastic because I mean I got some nice indentations and so forth, and it looks really good, but it was a long-winded process. It took such a long time. And when you're standing at a normal viewing distance, you really can't tell. I probably should have just used the Slater's brickwork, but it doesn't matter, I've done it. And of course, on top of that is that stone coping again, which I have done in the same way that I did for the road bridge. The old factory building that I used to have on the top, I have decided to do away with. Now that was a Skytrex model 00 gauge kit, and it wasn't bad, but it was also limited for what I wanted, so I've taken that away, and I've used a low relief building, once again from Scale Model Scenery, and that is now going to become my sort of distant low relief building. Now that is 00 gauge, it's meant to sort of represent force perspective as such. And I've changed things up this time, and I've got a nice big chimney next to that factory as well to sort of really show the whole, Lancashire, Yorkshire, Mills sort of look, which is so synonymous with the area. Further improvements have been the addition of more static grass, because after many years and after such moving around, the grass was looking fairly flat and fairly tatty, so I have gone ahead and I have put down a fresh coat of static grass, which is now looking really good. It's a lot more bulky, a lot more realistic as far as I'm concerned actually. It just gives it more of that bulk to it, which I'm very, very happy with. Last of all, next to my shed over here, I have finally got around to installing one of the Pico rail buffers. Now I found that the O-gauge ones are quite fiddly as far as fitting them to your track. They don't seem to sort of just clip in like you can get with, say, N-gauge and 00 gauge, but I've made it work. I've sprayed that with some rail match sleeper grime and weather black to sort of tone it down, dry brush the white either side there to represent like the buffers, and that's now ready. So visually, that is basically what I have been doing in preparation for the exhibition. The entire layout has been converted to DCC, and all the locomotors that you can see over here on the layout right now are DCC, and I have got a few more on the way too. So we've got the WD, the 9F, the 8Fs, the Duchess. I've also got some Black 5s, and there's a few other locomotors that should be on show at the exhibition as well. Jobs that are coming up. Well, I still obviously need to finish the top of the engine shed. There's a few details I need to put onto the roof and then of course paint that down, weather the entire structure. Whilst the road bridge is mostly done, I have to finish the painting of the inside walls underneath the actual bridge and get that ready and then give it a final weathering down. And then the last thing that has to do is I'm going to put essentially a frame around the entire layout. So not just to have a back scene at the back like so many models do, but I'm actually going to put a nice sort of widescreen frontage on so that when you look through you get this really nice widescreen vista. Rather than looking down, you need to look in to the model like that. That's how I want to do it. Lastly, I have built myself a traverser. Now, I've never done this before. I didn't need it when I had this at home because it was never an exhibition layout. But now that it is, I need a place to store the locomotives rather than always taking them on and off in only 1.5 foot past the road bridge. So I have built myself a 4-foot traverser, which should hold roughly around 9 locomotives comfortably, 7 to 9 locomotives comfortably, and between having locomotives on the layout and over there on the traverser, plus my third storage road behind the bridge, that should be enough to get enough stock for ample and maximum enjoyment. Right, well, there you go. That has been the progress of Newton Grove. So thank you so much for watching this video. You can, of course, see more online at keymodelworld.com. Now, you can also see Newton Grove at the Keighley Model Railway Club exhibition, which is being held at Woodback Nurseries in Harden, Bingley on March the 2nd and 3rd, 2024. You can get more details of that exhibition in the description below. You can also check out the Keighley Model Railway Club Facebook page and website. We do look forward to seeing you there because I'll be there with this layout, and of course you can talk to me about the magazine as well. Right, well, I've still got some work to do, so thank you for watching this video and I look forward to seeing you at the exhibition.